Welcome to On the Agenda. I'm Bong Young-sik. Economic cooperation among countries and regional blocs around the world has come to extend the influence of nations beyond physical borders. For the year 2016, we look at what projects lie ahead in the field of trade and what achievements Korea has made so far.
Korea's exports last year are estimated to have come in at $527 billion. Due to unfavorable conditions both at home and abroad, Asia's fourth largest economy missed its 4-year streak of hitting the $1 trillion mark in trade. But expectations for a pickup in outbound shipments have been on the rise with the recent implementation of 3 fresh free trade agreements. The country currently has 14 FTAs in effect, putting it in third place in the world at 73% when it comes to the size of its economic territory. Especially notable is Korea's FTA with China. By rolling out a trade deal with its largest trading partner, Korea has seen tariffs on some 950 items lifted and 5,000 set for gradual reductions. Seoul has also announced plans to foster the Saemangeum Free Economic Zone in the country as a launchpad to advance into the Chinese market.
한중 FTA를 최대한 활용해서 수출 회복의 전기를 마련하겠습니다. 중국으로 수출하는 2만 5천여 개 기업에 대해 시장 진출 컨설팅을 집중 지원하겠습니다.
Meanwhile, stepping away from one-on-one FTAs, another area that has received a great deal of spotlight is multilateral trade deals. Kickstarting that momentum last year was the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, which represents nearly 40% of the global GDP and was sealed after 5 years of tough negotiations.
We are pleased to announce that we have successfully concluded the Trans-Pacific Partnership negotiations.
Also on the agenda is the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, which would integrate the Asia-Pacific region into one free trade zone. Involved parties aim to reach a deal before the end of this year. And thanks to a 3-way summit meeting among Korea, China, and Japan, the first in 3.5 years, negotiations for a trilateral FTA are expected to gain momentum. With the rise of mega free trade deals, the Korean government is more aggressively reviewing the possibility of joining the TPP. With an economy that has relied heavily on exports, trade policies can have a very direct impact on the country's growth. We sit down with Second Vice Minister Tae-hee of the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy to see what issues will top the agenda this year on the trade front and what vision Korea has for the year ahead.
Welcome to On the Agenda. There is no question that South Korea is a country whose prosperity depends on trade, and we are extremely pleased to have you, Deputy Minister Tae-hee, today to discuss Korea's free trade agreements. Now, my first question is that with the signing and the putting into effect the Korea-China free trade agreement, South Korea is number 3 in the world in terms of the size of FTA market, following Chile and Peru. So what is the main achievement South Korean economy has in the year 2015 in terms of its trade policy?
Thank you for having me. We take our pride in the fact that Korea is at the forefront of the FTA network. Korea has already signed 15 FTAs with 52 countries that cover about 73.5% of the GDP, global GDP.
Almost 3/4 of world GDP.
Yes. And I think that last year's key achievement was the ratification of 3 important FTAs, namely FTA with China and FTA with Vietnam and also with New Zealand. These 3 countries cover about 30% of our total export. So it has a big meaning. And because it was in effect last December 20th, I think many of the exporting companies will have second cut this year, which will benefit not only the firms but also the Korean economy.
Okay, that's a great news. Looking ahead, with the Korea-China FTA put into effect, South Korean corporations have easy access to the domestic market of China, which accounts for at least 1.3 billion in terms of size of population. So what kind of impact do you think we'll see in a variety of fields, including agriculture sector?
I mean, because of this Korea-China FTA, Korean firms will have more access to Chinese premium markets. It's not just the manufacturing, but also the service sectors. So they have a big business opportunities ahead of them. And also, we will have new tools to tackle the non-tariff barriers and also to have close relationship with Chinese government. I think in terms of the agriculture, this is the biggest opportunity for our farmers to make Korea's fresh and organic food to be provided, because nowadays China, with their high income class, they want fresh and organic food. So this will be a big business opportunity for Korean farmers to export their products to China.
Okay. Now, I've been told before coming to this studio that you were the main person behind the scene in negotiating and concluding the Korea-China FTA since you led the Office of FTA negotiations in 2014. Would you like to share some fun episodes that behind the scene in the process of negotiating this very important but which must have been a very tough deal with China?
Yeah. I have been the chief negotiator of Korea-China FTA negotiation for 2 years. Being a chief negotiator is not an easy job, because you have to maintain your national interest. At the same time, you need to have the dialogue running. So a lot of episodes that I cannot tell in front of the TVs. Right. But if my one episode is that in the last days of the FTA negotiation in the November 2014, we had consecutive negotiation about 54 hours.
54 hours.
Not sleeping at all.
Wow.
So, Chinese are tough negotiators. For example, Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War in BC 500, 2,500 years ago. They already have all the tactics and strategy for the negotiations. So very tough to negotiate.
What were your secret strategies on behalf of Korea in response to the Chinese strategy?
I think being bold.
Being bold.
And also very frank.
Very frank.
And thinking that our president can make any agenda in the summit meeting was a big plus for us in the negotiation.
Right. Another big achievement on the front of South Korean diplomacy under Park Geun-hye administration is hosting the trilateral summit meetings in Seoul. And there has been rising expectation that the signing of a Korea-China FTA will lead to signing of the trilateral free trade agreements among South Korea, Japan, and China. How likely do you think the prospect actually is?
Yes, we call those trilateral FTA CJK FTA.
CJK FTA.
And I think I definitely agree with you that our summit meeting in November, last November, was a big momentum for this CJK negotiation, and also the fact that China-Korea FTA was concluded and now being effect will be also a big momentum. So we are looking at that it's going to make a progress, even though it's a little bit stalled at the moment. The reason it's stalled is that it's very difficult to have a balanced interest and balanced negotiation result of the three countries.
Right,
but,
more players.
Right, but I think that with those momentum, it's going to make progress in this year.
Okay. Have you witnessed any change of attitude from the Japanese government, more enthusiastic about signing this trilateral free trade agreement, or less enthusiastic?
I mean, the negotiators are always enthusiastic and very active about the negotiation itself. Okay. But we need to reflect our interest of the business and also from the industry. That's what keeps us a little bit difficult.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. And back in October, we saw countries strike a deal on the landmark Trans-Pacific Economic Partnership, TPP in short. And this sparked a lot of interest in mega free trade deals. Tell us more about these large-scale free trade pacts on Korean economy and the world.
We call those large pacts mega-FTAs. And I think there are two reasons why this mega-FTA is now being flourishing. Is that first is that many countries are very much frustrated with the WTO DDA talks, Doha Development Round. Last year, in December, we had ministerial conference, a 10th meeting, but it was not successful. So because of that frustration came this mega-FTA. And the second reason is that FTA, when we do it in bilateral ways, it takes time and a lot of cost. So why not do it in a lot of many countries gathered together? So I think this mega-FTA comes from the fact that we need some more efficiency in the negotiation process. So now we have TPP and the ongoing FTAs are of course CJK and RCEP FTA, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which is based on the Asian countries and Asian FTA partners. So we think that in the near future there will be a lot of mega-FTAs around us.
Well, Deputy Minister Woo, let me just push a little further on this mega-FTA as opposed to bilateral FTAs. Some people criticize the South Korean government that it missed the boat to join the TPP as original member, but some people made a counter argument that, listen, South Korea already has bilateral free trade agreement with all the members participating in TPP except for Japan and Mexico. So what are the main benefits and losses expected to join the mega multilateral comprehensive FTA as opposed to the benefits and downside of the joining bilateral free trade agreements?
Yes, some people say that as we have 10 FTAs among the 12 members of TPP, why do we need TPP? But let me explain this in two ways. One is that TPP is a high-level comprehensive FTA. So even though we have a bilateral FTA, there are some room for higher concession and to have our higher level of rules and norms inside our FTA. So there is a lot of rooms for the development. The second factor is about the rules of origin, which we call complete cumulative rules of origin, which says that a product that is made from the component and parts of the TPP member countries will be more favored than the other countries' products. So if we are not the member of TPP, we might have some kind of a trade conversion effect. So those are the two main reasons we need to be the TPP member country.
So not every FTA is the same in terms of quality and regulations. Right. So what are the major concerns that South Korean government tried to overcome in terms of joining TPP as early as possible?
In the legal sense, we need to have certain procedures according to our trade treaty procedure law, which obliges government to have something like feasibility study or the public hearing or report to the National Assembly. So before government make any decision, we need to go through those procedures. And in terms of the negotiation, there are two levels of negotiation, of course. What we were talking about is the negotiation with foreign countries, but the another level is negotiation with our domestic interesting parties. So we need to persuade and we need to protect our sensitivities. So that will take some time to make some consensus.
It's a double-sided.
Of course.
Okay. What kind of assessment you have made in terms of how TPP will impact domestic sectors? Like what would be the expected sector-by-sector impact of TPP?
Most FTAs has been some kind of influence on the agriculture and fishery part, whereas we get some gains on our manufacturing. In terms of TPP, a little bit different because we need some sensitivity protection in our material industry and some of the small and medium industries because of the sensitivity from the Japan. So we need to have more access and more analysis on this aspect. So far, what we have analyzed is that there are two parts. One about the norms and ruling parts. Of course, TPP has new chapters such as state-owned enterprise, developments, small and medium enterprises, regulatory coherence, many new chapters and new features. But because TPP is based on the chorus text, Korea, US, FTA text, they take it as a golden standard. So I think we can accept the norms and rulings part. The other part is the market access, because TPP pursues very high level of concession.
Right.
So, and we find that there has been some exceptions among the bilateral concessions. So that will take some time for us to analyze.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned the concessions at the high level. Then some people would be worried that free trade may benefit the entire economy or a small number of big corporations which have international competitiveness, but small and medium-sized corporations may be crushed under the free trade agreement. So, but some people also argue that they will benefit in the long run by joining the global value chain. What's your opinion on this, pros and cons of FTA benefiting or hurting small and medium-sized corporations?
I mean, every FTA is unique, and there are always pros and cons. Some people say, as Dr. Bong has said, that there are a little bit minus side on the small and medium enterprises. But in TPP, there are also some supporting articles about small and medium enterprises, especially what I talked about, the complete accumulation of rules of origin. This will definitely benefit the small and medium companies, especially in the textile area and the car components area.
Okay.
So in some areas, I think if we join TPP, small and medium enterprises will be having some gains from the joining.
Right. Has it been helpful for your ministry to have observed the negotiation between Abe administration of Japan and the Obama administration of the United States in terms of TPP and the agricultural fishery sectors in Japan?
Of course. I mean, we are the latecomers in the TPP if we can join, and if we can see and analyze what other countries have given to others and vice versa, we can make it our case to persuade other countries. You have given this to this country, why not us? So there will be a big reference for Korea.
But as you said, the South Korea is a latecomer to potentially join the TPP. Then there might be possibility that existing 12 members may impose on South Korea some additional requirements.
That's what we call some entry fee.
Entry fee.
Yeah, but when I meet with TPP member countries, I will strongly argue that if Korea joins TPP, it's not just Korea that will benefit from the membership. The other 12 members all will have the benefit from joining. For example, right now TPP covers about 38.5% of the GDP globally. Korea will join, it goes up to 40%. Korea's joining will make TPP the bigger the pie.
Right.
So they will have much more markets.
Right. It gains additional significance.
Of course.
Right?
And for example, Korea is very few countries that can provide very sophisticated parts and components. TPP is based on the global value chain, and if they can have Korea, I mean, it can fulfill the missing link in the global value chains. And also, Korea have many innovative global companies. They will do more investment and be the active players. And also, Korea can share our implementation experience with other countries because Korea had high-level Chorus FTA with United States, and I think we had a very valuable experience from the implementation, and we would like to gladly share this experience with other countries.
Yeah, that's good news. I learned as a student of political science that politics is something that makes things unnecessarily difficult and complicated, while economics is a thing that makes things easier and cleaner. But interestingly, this year is an election year for South Korea and the United States, which is a very important and influential member of the TPP. So what's your prospect for domestic politics, making it very difficult for the TPP negotiations for South Korea and other member countries?
Even though FTA has economic interests, all FTAs are the decision of the political leadership. So we need strong leadership when we are going to make a conclusion. So I think this year we have a lot of elections domestically and in the United States. So how to use this as a momentum to pursue our TPP membership will be a big homework for me. So we'll do a careful analysis and to make a further progress.
Could you tell us your experience about overcoming the political hurdles when you push ahead for the ratification of Korea-China FTA? What were the major problems in the context of the domestic politics that you had to go through? And what kind of lessons can you apply to the process of negotiation for South Korea joining TPP in near future?
I think that, I have been the FTA negotiator for many years, but there has not been successful negotiators. The reason is that FTA negotiation is not an easy one. I think what you need to see is what the other negotiators has in mind, but you cannot see through his heart. But when you say the iceberg, they say it's the tip of the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg is what we call the position. If we negotiate between the position and position, we will never compromise.
Okay.
The other country has their mandate, I have their mandate. So successful negotiator is the one who can see not just the position, not the tip of the iceberg, but beneath the iceberg.
The entire thing, right?
What we call the interest.
Interest.
Why the other negotiators is saying those things? Because of the interest. So we need to compromise between my position and the interest of the other negotiators to be successful. So that is a not easy job.
Okay, right. If there's any message that you would like to share with the public and international viewers of this program on why South Korea will benefit every existing member of TPP and the world economy in general, could you just tell that to the viewers?
I think that Korea has been traditionally a trading nation, and TPP is necessary to secure our leadership in the FTA network. Korea has been the third country globally achieving this FTA, and I think it has been a big benefit for our exporting firms. And of course, there are some areas that is being hurt by the FTA, but we will be very careful to make the funds and to help those areas to change for the good benefit. The reason that we need to pursue FTA is that FTA will eventually bring us the competition in the industry. A little bit difficulty in the business, but by this competition, we will have more competitiveness, and that will upgrade our industry. So I hope that the people can support our FTA efforts.
And appreciate your effort behind the scenes. Right? Thank you so much for sharing us today with your explanations on the very complicated yet significant matters for South Korea's FTA strategy. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Free trade agreements involve endless rounds of negotiations, as each party tries to maximize its own benefits while finding common ground with others. It's largely inevitable that some industries see more losses than gains, which is why drawing up countermeasures to aid troubled sectors is just as important as sealing the deal. Thanks for watching.